Welcome to the Alice and Pete Show. We're going to continue our series with Gary Chapman's 5 love languages. And as usual, I'm going to try and keep it clean, although we'll probably fail. We have already done, what have we done? We've done words of affirmation. We've done acts of service. We've done giving and receiving of gifts. And now we're on to quality time. So, Alice, would you like to do a brief introduction as to what quality time is all about while I check my phone?
Quality time. Well, it's time spent with your partner, and someone whose love language is quality time will hold great importance to full undivided attention and wanting to essentially put time into the relationship that would need love instead of having a gift or a magnet.
Can't be fixed with a fridge magnet. There's one thing that can't be fixed with a fridge magnet.
It's about the time. It's about the undivided attention. It's about focused listening, one-to-one time together.
Wow, that sounds really scary compared to fridge magnets. That means actually putting the time in and putting the phones down, doesn't it?
Absolutely. That's a massive, massive one. Not being distracted. So we talk about different types of quality time. And one is absolutely undivided listening. No phones, no distractions. For other people, it could be an activity, a date night, a weekend. That'd be nice. Baking. So
baking. Did you say baking or faking?
Baking. Cereal.
Cereal.
We need a code word for faking, or do we?
Faking it. Yeah, faking organisms.
Yes, faking organisms. Not sure. I think that might have to be addressed next week on physical touch.
Yes, physical touch is the last one that we're doing, isn't it? So I got some feedback actually. Marcia is saying, "Ha, that's funny," but that's also her primary language. So if you're out on a date with Marcia, put your phone down and just listen to her. Now she might be boring though. This is a problem with quality time. If you're with someone who's really boring, how do you pretend to be listening but not actually have to bother listening? The tip for the gents here. So.
But also, if you're with someone and you're constantly finding them boring, then perhaps this is a different issue than just not understanding their love language. What do you think?
Could be, but they might be really pretty. So you might be prepared to put up with them being boring just because your love language is physical touch. And
is that love?
No, and that might be just lust. And there's a big difference, apparently. Yeah. So
yeah, and we're talking about love. Given, yes, someone might hold physical appearance very, very dear to their heart, but it won't last long.
No, because at the end of the day, this, I suspect, has been thrown into focus by lockdown. Because
so the idea of time. Oh, you're always harping on about spending time. Now you've got too much time.
Yeah.
And I suppose this is where we separate quality and time, because you could have spent a hell of a lot of time, and we all did with anyone that we lived with. But the quality was quite often removed from that. So because you were spending so much time and within proximity, the time that you spent together, people weren't making as much effort to put in the quality. So sitting down and having the conversations that didn't have any distractions, creating a date night when you're in the whole time. I certainly had a lot of clients who were struggling with this with partners, and it was about thinking, what can we do together? What event can we create? Like a date night, like spending maybe 10 minutes in the morning how's your day looking? Not very different from yesterday.
Yeah. So what are you up to today then? Well, Netflix mainly, but yeah, it must have been awful. Must have been terrible. Imagine being locked down in a tiny little flat with somebody you don't like, surrounded by screaming kids. That'd be time, but it would be hard time rather than quality time, wouldn't it?
Yeah, really difficult. And there was actually a few studies to show how people kind of had more empathy for those who are incarcerated and in prison, sort of having a touch of what it's like to not be able to go outside. Massive. So this love language was hugely affected. But now that we are back allowed out,
yeah,
may it continue, we've got a lot more options. So it really depends. Sorry.
No, I was going to say, so how do you tell whether your partner or potential partner has this love language? What are the things to look out for? What are the signs?
I think, firstly, individuals whose love language is quality time can often feel rejected and lonely when they don't get enough time spent with their partner. They can quite often be turned off sexually if they're not getting quality time, because they're not feeling love. So things like feeling intimate and close. It might not just be sexual, but it might be just emotionally close.
Right.
Because again, you're not essentially being told I love you.
Right. Okay. I can. Yeah. So if you don't make the time to be with them, then effectively what you're saying is, I don't love you, and it's no point. There's no point earning money to buy them presents, because that ain't going to hit the spot if that's not their love language.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And quite often another sign of someone that holds this as a love language is they can get upset when plans have been cancelled or postponed. Right. Especially with that partner. But you'll see it coming into other areas, with friends, with work, with things that they like doing. When they get cancelled, it can make them upset or pissed off.
Just messes with them, because effectively you're being, I guess it would be rejecting them. They'd feel rejected if their love language is quality time and suddenly something crops up and you can't do it. They'd feel rejected. Okay, here's a problem that I've often found. People want you to spend more time with them. It's usually a romantic partner, but it doesn't have to be. But when you do make the time to be with them, then all you get is nagging or equivalent that you don't spend enough time with them. Hence, there's less reason to want to spend more time with them, and it makes it harder. So if your love language is quality time and your partner's not, how can you communicate that without coming over as nagging or needy or basically wanting them to making them want to run a mile?
By articulating what exactly it is that you want to do. So not you need to spend more time with me, but I'd really like if we could have a date. Be specific to someone. If that's not their love language, then just saying I want time, it's pretty broad.
Yeah.
So I'd ask that person who holds that love language, what is it you like doing? Do you like going for walks? Do you like going for dates? Do you like cooking dinner and having a meal in? Do you like someone listening to you? So be specific in what you're saying to them. Some of the research that Gary started with, but more recently other psychologists have looked into, is if one partner or both, holds this as a love language, start and end your day as much as you can with time. 10 minutes without your phone in the morning before work, or starting work, or going out with your children. And at the end of the day, 5-10 minutes without a phone or a distraction, asking them, how was your day? And that's a very simple but effective way to interject love.
Yeah. I think phones and digital devices in general have been a real problem. I mean, when I were a lad, hadn't got things like that. And if you were with someone, you were with someone. But it pisses me off when you're in a pub and all they're doing is on their phone, because it's basically saying you're not as important as the latest Instagram picture. that's been posted. So turn notifications off unless they're important notifications, I would suggest. I know I've done that myself. It also gives you your sanity back, because if you're always being interrupted by something that somebody else has decided is more important than what you're doing, then you haven't got control of your life. You're being pushed around by the computers. And it used to be that we thought that computers would set us free. And often now, in many jobs, and social media, it feels like you're working for the computer, not the other way around. That's wrong. Definitely.
I mean, even if you don't hold this as a love language, if someone's not listening to you and they're on your phone, it's annoying. And it's not my primary, but it would still piss me off.
Yeah.
So if it is your primary or secondary love language, what essentially is being said to them is, I'm not good enough, you don't love me enough, that you're not listening to me.
Yeah.
You're not offering me. And that hurts. This to the same person that would hold physical touch and not get touched. It's exactly the same.
Yeah. And again, this is one reason why I think these 5 love languages are really important, because it gives you a framework to assess what makes the other person happy. And I didn't have that vocabulary until I read this book. It's really very important. I think the closest that I ever got to it before this is when I was speaking to friends who are having relationship problems. I said, there's nothing wrong with saying to the person, it would make me really happy if you were to cook dinner tonight, or it would make me really happy if we could go on a walk together. Because most people who are in a relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a romantic relationship, or probably even a business relationship, want to please the other person. But without talking about it, mind reading is almost always likely to go wrong. So it would make me really happy if we could go out for a meal. Would be great. It doesn't have to be anything posh. It just means the time is there. It's not really about the meal. It's about the time over the meal, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think you absolutely spot on with what you were saying. The communication across all of this is key. Be specific. Say what it is. What type of time? What type of words of affirmation? I know what you're thinking. I can see it coming out. What type of touch? We'll get there next week. Yes. And probably spend more time.
It would make me really happy if, we're going to need to get some vocabulary up for next week, aren't we? Because it might get a bit naughty.
Definitely. And there is quite often a crossover with quality time and acts of service as well. If someone, and I'd ask anyone that's listening or have said that their love language is quality time, what is the quality time that you like doing? Is it to have a conversation? Or is it to do a date? Yeah, to go on a date. Yeah. What is it exactly? Or both?
Well, Michael is on there now. He's saying, my love language is quality time. Okay, so Michael, will throw down the gauntlet. In your quality time, what do you like to do with your partner? Or if you don't have a partner, what do you like to do on your own? Because, it doesn't have to be with a romantic partner. It could be spend quality time with yourself. They're always telling us to love ourselves, aren't they? Although not in the vegetable aisle at Sainsbury's, because that causes consternation. But I mean, that's another. Should you make quality time for yourself, Alice?
Definitely. This is something that we should give a whole session to, the love language for ourselves. How do we tell ourselves we love ourselves? Because that's really important. It sounds really cheesy, but it's super important.
Well,
how can we expect that cliche? How can we expect anyone to really love us if we don't love ourselves?
Yes, I always thought that was nonsense, but I think it's probably not now. Having done the work, you've got to be happy in your own skin, haven't you, before you're trying to get into somebody else's skin.
But also to be able to communicate it. So, would you say you love yourself, Pete? Because it can feel quite awkward asking someone that.
Yeah, much more now than say 5 years ago. Yeah, because up until then it was a mission to make money, probably to try and please someone who I was married to, who's, I don't know, I won't say too much, but probably receiving gifts was in there, and receiving gifts. If you correlate the amount of money spent on gifts, then the way to be able to afford those gifts is to make lots of money. So quality time really wasn't, to me, it was an inconvenience getting in the way of the real important stuff, which was making shed loads of money.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a journey, isn't it?
And what would you have found it easier if this partner would have said, I'd really like if you'd watch this program with me, or just sit down with me for half an hour?
Absolutely, yeah, because at 100%, because it's about communication. But having spoken to many couples over the last few years, and as recently as the last few days, they don't have the vocabulary to do it because there's no framework to hang it on. And again, come back to, that's why I think the 5 love languages is really important, because of its simplicity. This is not, it's not an intellectually difficult process to learn 5 things and think about it. But unless you know that there are these 5 things that are worth learning and the reason why they're important, you're kind of floundering in the dark without a dictionary.
I think we can overcomplicate a lot anyway, just within ourselves. And then especially when we have 2 people together or more. And that can feel very complex. So the way that Chapman and other people since then have created this almost very simple framework, an idea, is genius.
Well,
genius.
They always teach us in marketing and in business circles that experts simplify, and experts build models, or simple models, to reflect complex systems. So it's actually really easy, if you're clever, to complicate things. If you're a genius, you make them simple. And that's why I think the 5 love languages work. Yeah, it probably is up there with genius, because once you know it, you just wish you'd have known it forever, and it's easy to understand, really.
Absolutely. I think the little tips, and perhaps if that is something that people want to recap and tip what to do if your partner holds whatever love language, we should do. I
think we should do a book, or I don't know, something where people get their credit cards out and run to the back of the room or something, something where we charge people loads of money to work out what their partner's love language is, and then give them ammunition to actually go and use it. Maybe there's a product in there somewhere.
Maybe we should do it at Stag and Hen Do's.
Yeah.
That's an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, we've not really thought about making products and stuff, but that might be quite good. I mean, if you could have a manual, but here's a checklist, sort of signs to find out what their love language is, and then once you've identified that, techniques to appeal, not appeal because that sounds manipulative, but to make them happy. I mean, I'd buy it. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this particular love language is about also the communication and understanding of what quality time your partner wants, or you want if it's yours, and being able to identify that. Essentially, you're kind of thinking, what do I like doing? What do I like doing that I want to bring the person that I love alongside with me? I would also, if people have been together for a really long time, or not necessarily, but it seems to be more prevalent in people that have been married or together for longer, is what did you enjoy doing when you were dating? Because the quality time is much higher then.
Yeah.
No serial talk.
No serial talk. No serial talk. But Yeah. Here's something. If you're with the right person, I've had this happen, before I was married. Not saying it didn't happen while I was married, but when I was in my single days, being stuck at an airport in between flights for 12 hours, wearing clothes that you've been wearing for days. Basically, everything was rubbish apart from you're with a really good friend or lover or whatever, and you have a ball, or doing stuff that actually is very tedious, and with the wrong person would be a nightmare. With the right person, doesn't matter. I've had wonderful dates in terrible restaurants, and I've had terrible dates in wonderful restaurants. So it's about the person, isn't it? Not the environment.
It's definitely about the person. Definitely. Yeah. And I think this can sometimes be difficult for people with very high pressure jobs or travel, and the time part of it is limited. So I would say focus on the quality, the eye contact, the lack of distractions.
Yeah.
Because even 10 minutes, the research is showing that even 10 minutes a day, and if you could do that twice, can be implemented, that really shows your partner they're loved. And you'll probably enjoy it too, if you love them back.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking actually on the sort of tedious stuff, because I think there's too much excitement and happiness in the world generally. I used to quite enjoy going shopping, just go to Tesco and go together and squeeze the melons and just
hold the kiwis.
Yeah, all the kiwis, but just boring everyday stuff. Going shopping at Tesco with the right person is an absolute pleasure. Going on your own is boring, and going with someone who just moans about every choice that you make's a nightmare. So it is really about the person, isn't it, at the end of the day? So if you can't spend quality time with them, don't spend any time with them.
I would question if you can't spend any little or long quality time. Yeah, why? It's a bigger question, maybe. I definitely think a supermarket shop's a good one. Also, cleaning the dishes.
Yeah.
Quite often, I would say if your partner holds this love language, but really likes communication and time spent doing things and talking, and you find it difficult to communicate verbally, be a good listener. Again, the distraction, but also if this is your love language and your partner's struggling, do something with them so it doesn't feel so focused, like cooking together.
Yeah, and doing together.
So you don't feel like you're next to a therapist.
And if she wears a French maid's uniform with, no, we won't go into it. So you can actually spend quality time together that then naturally moves on to the cereal and the physical touch stuff, which we'll talk about next week. Yeah.
Well, I guess, if quality time is matched with physical touch, then we could be going down the road of role play.
Exactly. And there's a whole episode of that. There's a whole
and that's next week.
Yeah. But I mean, we've been going for a while now, so we'll finish shortly. But yeah, I think of all of the love languages, ostensibly, you could say that this one is the simplest one, because all you've got to do is put your phone down and spend some time with your partner and listen. But on the flip side, it's, I would argue, probably the most difficult, because you can't outsource it or throw money at it. You've actually got to do the time. And, people get sent to prison to do time, don't they? And it can be hard.
Yeah. This one is really important. I think it filters into a lot of people's love language anyway, and desire to be with someone else. But it can be simple, but also really, really complex if you don't know how. So finding specific things to do, even scheduling it in the week, having it in.
Yeah, schedule it in.
The time, the quality in, schedule it in.
And turn the damn phone off, people. You millennials, turn your phones off. Stop it. Or at least if you're out with me, you turn your phone off. Otherwise, I go home. It's that simple. Right. Closing statements, closing words. Any nuggets of advice we could leave them with, apart from turn your damn phones off?
Yeah, I think remove distractions for a small amount of time. Get activities in that you enjoy. And if you're still really struggling, come to us. I would question why the quality time can't be spent, but experiment with different things. Ask yourself, what do you enjoy doing?
Yeah, and start small. See if you can stand 10 minutes with her. If you can, next time go for 15 or 20. Before you know it, she's got an hour, hasn't she? So yeah, don't have to do it all at once. Bit like the gym, little and often,
bit by bit.
Bit by bit. Alice, as always, you've been absolutely lovely. Thank you for spending quality time with us. And
with you.
Next week, it's physical touch, which means I'll probably get put in Facebook jail because we're bound to mention naughty things.
Cereal.
Yes, cereal. And I'll come up with some more vocabulary. But for everybody who's listening now, thank you. I hope we've learned you something.
Thank you.
And thank you to all the people who, in between these sessions, hit me up on Facebook and offer support as well. I won't mention names, but people do. And these will all be posted on a YouTube channel. So they'll be here forever. So, wow, isn't that cool, technology?
That's cool. Very cool. And also, if there's anything that people want us to discuss or talk about, write it down, put it up.
Yes.
Or even in a private message.
Write it down and stick it up. They don't like it up them, do they, Mr. Mangring? Cool. With that.
On that note.
Bye for now. Lots of love.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.